The silence broke like thunder in the middle of a clear sky. Jungkook revealed that he had confronted Jimin, and for the first time in years, their bond seemed shaken. Why would the youngest member of BTS, so often described as patient, forgiving, and endlessly devoted to his brothers, choose to admonish Jimin in a way that left him speechless? What triggered this moment of rare tension between two of the closest members of the group? And perhaps more importantly, what truth hides behind Jungkook's decision to address it directly rather than remain quiet, as he always has? These questions now dominate the conversations of millions of fans worldwide, who cannot ignore the weight of what has been said and the implications it carries for the future. The heart of the matter lies in something deceptively simple: Jungkook's 28th birthday. What should have been a moment of joy, gratitude, and unity became instead the stage for disappointment, quiet pain, and an unspoken fracture. Fans remember it vividly. The live stream where Jungkook smiled, laughed, and blew out his candles in front of millions. To the untrained eye, it was a perfect evening. Yet to those who know him, there was a subtle heaviness, a kind of pause between his words, as if something crucial was missing. And indeed, something was missing. The presence of those he considers family. Among all the absences, none hurt Jungkook more than Jimin's. Their relationship has always stood as one of the strongest within BTS, a bond forged through years of shared hardships and triumphs. From the earliest days of their training to the heights of international fame, Jimin has been both protector and companion to Jungkook, guiding him through uncertainty and grounding him in moments of chaos. That is why his absence cut deeper than the rest, and why Jungkook's eventual decision to speak up carried such emotional gravity. When Jungkook chose to confront Jimin, it was not an explosion of anger. It was a moment of quiet, restrained truth. Sources close to the group describe it as a rare instance of Jungkook laying bare his disappointment, saying in words what he had once only held in silence. Jimin, known for his emotional sensitivity, was reportedly stunned into silence. He did not respond defensively, nor did he offer immediate explanations. Instead, he listened, because the pain in Jungkook's voice was undeniable. Taehyung, who had already broken his own silence about that night, was the one who first revealed the depth of Jungkook's disappointment. Yet Jungkook's own decision to address Jimin directly adds another layer to the story. For weeks, speculation swirled about whether Jimin's absence was intentional, accidental, or unavoidable. Fans debated endlessly. Was it simply a matter of conflicting schedules, or did something more complicated lie beneath the surface? Now, with Jungkook himself making it clear that he felt let down, the debate has reignited with even greater intensity. What makes this confrontation so striking is not just the fact that it happened, but the way it unfolded. Jungkook, who rarely calls attention to grievances, chose to highlight Jimin's absence not in front of cameras, but in a private, brotherly setting. His decision to address it shows both the depth of his hurt and the significance of their bond. He could have ignored it, as he did with the other members' absences. But he did not. He chose Jimin because for him, Jimin's presence had always been a given, not a possibility. For fans, the revelation is bittersweet. On one hand, it affirms what many have always believed, that Jungkook and Jimin share a bond deeper than mere friendship, one that makes them expect the best of each other. On the other hand, it exposes a raw human truth, that even the closest of brothers can hurt one another, intentionally or not. And in this case, the hurt was sharp enough to break Jungkook's silence. Jimin's reaction, or rather, his lack of an immediate response, has only deepened the mystery. Why did he remain silent? Was it out of guilt, shock, or the weight of knowing that nothing he could say in that moment would ease Jungkook's pain? Silence, after all, can speak louder than words. It can signify acknowledgement, regret, or even confusion. For now, only Jimin knows the answer. The broader question remains: why did Jungkook choose this moment to admonish Jimin? Observers suggest that his disappointment had been quietly building, not just because of one missed birthday, but because of what it symbolized. In the world of global stardom, schedules are unforgiving and priorities often collide. Yet for Jungkook, who had always counted on Jimin's presence, that absence carried symbolic weight. It was not merely a missed event. It was a fracture in expectation, a moment where reality failed to meet the bond he believed unshakable. What followed after the confrontation is equally significant. Those who witnessed it described the atmosphere as heavy but not hostile. Jungkook's words were measured, not accusatory. He did not lash out. Instead, he expressed the pain of waiting, the quiet heartbreak of hoping, and the disillusionment of realizing that the person he expected most was not there. His tone was not that of anger, but of honesty. And sometimes, honesty wounds more deeply than anger ever could. For ARMY, the revelation has been nothing short of earth-shattering. It forces them to confront a reality often overlooked. BTS are not unshakable icons, but human beings bound by complex emotions, vulnerable to disappointment, and capable of being hurt by those they love most. The image of Jungkook, scrolling through his phone with quiet hope, waiting for a message that never came, has become a haunting reminder of this humanity. The implications of this moment extend far beyond one birthday. They raise larger questions about the pressures idols face, the sacrifices they make, and the personal costs of maintaining both public image and private relationships. For Jungkook and Jimin, the confrontation may ultimately strengthen their bond, forcing them to acknowledge vulnerabilities they had long avoided. Or it may linger as a scar, a reminder that even the strongest relationships are not immune to fracture. As fans dissect every word, every silence, and every glance, one truth stands out above all. Jungkook's decision to speak was not just about a missed birthday. It was about trust, expectation, and the pain of feeling unseen by the person who matters most. And Jimin's silence, in turn, becomes a question mark that no explanation can fully erase. What happens now? Will Jimin break his silence, as Taehyung once did, to shed light on his absence? Will Jungkook and Jimin choose to address this openly, or will they allow time to heal what words could not? For now, the answers remain hidden, and perhaps that is what keeps fans on edge. But one thing is certain. This confrontation has revealed a side of Jungkook rarely seen, a side that demands honesty, even at the cost of discomfort. And in doing so, it has left both Jimin and ARMY in stunned silence, waiting for the next chapter in a story that is far from over. Under the glare of global attention, every detail of Jungkook and Jimin's dynamic now feels magnified, dissected, and debated. Fans are left wondering whether this was a fleeting misunderstanding or a deeper turning point in their relationship. For years, the narrative around Jungkook and Jimin has been one of unwavering loyalty and affection. So to hear that Jungkook himself chose to admonish Jimin sends shockwaves through a fandom that once viewed their bond as unshakable. The starkness of Jungkook's decision to voice his disappointment signals that this was not a trivial matter. It was a wound significant enough to pierce his usual silence. Speculation has since swirled across communities of devoted fans. Did Jimin's silence reflect guilt, a tacit acknowledgement of fault, or was it simply the weight of being confronted so directly by someone he holds dear? In the world of BTS, where emotions are often filtered through public appearances and carefully measured words, moments like this reveal the raw humanity that lies beneath the polished surface. For Jungkook, the absence may have symbolized more than one missed event. It may have represented a question of priority, a doubt he never expected to face from Jimin. Observers also note the unusual contrast in responses. Taehyung chose openness, sharing the truth with fans, while Jimin has remained entirely silent, neither explaining nor excusing himself. That silence is deafening. It leaves space for interpretation, for hurt, and for doubt. Yet it also leaves room for reconciliation. Silence can be a shield, but it can also be preparation, a pause before words that may carry more weight than immediate explanations ever could. What makes this incident so gripping is its universality. Every fan, regardless of culture or distance, understands the sting of waiting for someone who never comes, the ache of expecting loyalty and being met with absence. To imagine Jungkook surrounded by millions of fans' love yet quietly waiting for Jimin's presence creates an image that resonates beyond fandom. It is not just the story of two idols. It is a mirror to the shared human experience of longing and disappointment. And so the question lingers, what will Jimin say, if anything? Will he address Jungkook privately, leaving fans to speculate forever? Or will he break his silence publicly to ease the tension now hanging in the air? Until then, ARMY remains caught in the middle of uncertainty, piecing together fragments of truth from whispers, glances, and confessions. What is undeniable, however, is that Jungkook's voice in this matter has shifted the dynamic. No longer just the quiet youngest member, he has shown that his expectations matter, that his trust can be shaken, and that even bonds built over a decade can be tested. Underneath the dazzling light of global stardom, a single question now dominates the minds of millions. Did Jungkook truly admonish Jimin, leaving him silent and shaken? Or is this entire narrative merely a carefully crafted spectacle designed to ignite speculation? The event, as described across countless online platforms, is striking in its detail. Yet what proof do we truly hold? And why should we accept such claims without subjecting them to rigorous scrutiny? The narrative that Jungkook directly confronted Jimin over his absence during the 28th birthday celebration has traveled with astonishing speed, propelled by clips, rumors, and confessions allegedly originating from insiders. Social media feeds on this kind of tension, amplifying every fragment until it resembles truth. But does virality equate to authenticity? Can we accept that a few seconds of ambiguous footage or a whispered remark from Taehyung contain the entire truth of what transpired? Or are we, perhaps unknowingly, consuming a storyline carefully sculpted to feed the public's insatiable appetite for drama? One must ask, if Jungkook truly expressed disappointment, why has there been no official confirmation from either him or Jimin? Why has Jimin remained silent in the face of swirling accusations and conjecture? Is his silence an admission of guilt, or is it instead the dignified refusal to validate a rumor with response? And most importantly, should we, as an audience, project our own narratives onto that silence, or should we acknowledge that silence itself is not evidence? Consider the sources from which these claims arise. TikTok edits, Twitter threads, YouTube commentary, and speculative media outlets have all contributed to shaping the storyline. But what are these, if not platforms where sensationalism thrives? Every click, every share, every view fuels the machinery of attention. Could this story, then, be less about truth and more about the profitable currency of engagement? Are we, the audience, complicit in sustaining a cycle where speculation becomes news and news becomes indistinguishable from fiction? The gravity of Jungkook allegedly confronting Jimin cannot be understated if true. It would mark a rare fracture in a bond long considered unbreakable. But pause for a moment. Why do we so readily consume this narrative? Is it because we long to see the humanity of idols exposed, their vulnerabilities laid bare, their perfection disrupted? Or is it because the machinery of modern media has conditioned us to expect scandal, to crave discord, to believe that harmony is less believable than conflict? If the confrontation did occur, what does it reveal? That idols, too, harbor disappointments, that friendships are not immune to fracture, that loyalty is never absolute. Yet if it did not occur, if it is a fabrication spun by opportunistic sources, then what is our willingness to believe it reveal about us? Are we seeking truth, or are we consuming entertainment disguised as truth? The narrative presents itself as credible. Taehyung's words, Jungkook's disappointment, Jimin's silence. But can fragments stitched together across platforms truly represent an entire reality? Could Taehyung's alleged remarks have been taken out of context? Could Jungkook's supposed disappointment be nothing more than a fan's projection onto his quiet demeanor during a live stream? And if so, how dangerous is it that perception alone can create the illusion of fact? Here lies the deeper question. Do we, as an audience, truly desire truth? Or do we prefer stories that sustain our fascination? When millions of voices echo the same rumor, does repetition transform speculation into reality? Or must we resist this temptation and hold firmly to skepticism, demanding verifiable evidence before surrendering belief? Reflect also on the consequences. If untrue, how does such a rumor affect the very individuals it concerns? What burden does it place on Jungkook and Jimin to perform reconciliation for the sake of quelling speculation, regardless of whether a fracture ever existed? Are we, in our hunger for drama, imposing a narrative upon them that they never lived? This is why reflection is not optional. It is essential. We must ask ourselves, do we believe the story because it is substantiated or because it is compelling? Are we captivated by fact or seduced by the illusion of conflict? If tomorrow evidence emerged proving this confrontation never occurred, would we accept it quietly, or would we cling to the drama we have already consumed? Every claim presented so far must be seen through the lens of uncertainty. Reports circulate through TikTok edits, YouTube commentary, and Twitter debates, none of which carry the weight of verified journalism. Each retelling reshapes the story, distorting it further from its origin. Does this constant reshaping not demand that we question the reliability of what we consume as readers, as fans, as consumers of information? The responsibility falls on us to distinguish speculation from fact. Will we choose to believe without evidence, or will we demand more than rumors before forming conclusions? Will we let sensationalism dictate our understanding, or will we cultivate the discipline of skepticism? The silence of Jimin remains the most enigmatic element of all. It is easy to project meaning onto it, to interpret it as guilt or regret. But perhaps it is neither. Perhaps his silence is merely the refusal to feed a narrative that was never real. In this case, what does our collective insistence on interpreting his silence say about us? Are we searching for answers, or are we searching for drama? So the challenge remains. As you read these words, reflect carefully. Do you truly believe that Jungkook rebuked Jimin, leaving him silent and shaken? Or do you suspect that this is a fabrication, engineered to capture attention in the ever-hungry cycle of media consumption? Is this narrative an unfiltered glimpse into the fragile humanity of idols, or is it a carefully constructed illusion, no more real than the headlines designed to sustain your gaze? The truth may exist only in the private space between Jungkook and Jimin, inaccessible to cameras, fans, or media. Until then, every claim, every headline, every whisper must be held with suspicion. The question is not only whether the story is true, it is whether you, the reader, will accept it without evidence or demand proof before belief. And so, the final question lingers like an echo that refuses to fade. Do you believe? Or have you been deceived? Then let us take this reflection one step further. If the story of Jungkook admonishing Jimin is indeed true, it forces us to acknowledge a profound reality. Even within the most admired and idealized groups, there exists vulnerability, conflict, and unspoken disappointment. But if the story is false, if it is a creation born out of selective interpretations, exaggerated claims, and the relentless hunger of digital media, what does that reveal about the culture we inhabit as consumers of information? Are we, without realizing it, complicit in perpetuating narratives that may wound the very people we admire? The media ecosystem in which this narrative thrives is itself a subject of scrutiny. TikTok edits dramatize seconds of footage until they resemble evidence. YouTube channels produce lengthy analyses based on pauses, glances, or gestures that may mean nothing at all. Twitter threads spread conjecture until repetition lends them the illusion of fact. But ask yourself, how often do these platforms verify before publishing? How often do they correct themselves if proven wrong? And how often do we, as an audience, question the reliability of what we consume? Consider further. When a rumor becomes so widespread that it dominates international discussion, does it matter whether it began as fact or fiction? Or does its power lie simply in its ability to shape perception? If millions now believe that Jungkook truly rebuked Jimin, does that perception create a reality of its own, pressuring the members to act in ways that satisfy the narrative rather than their own truth? Is this, then, not a form of manipulation in which both idols and fans are trapped? The silence of Jimin continues to loom over this entire discourse. Every day that he does not respond, speculation grows louder. But is silence an admission? Or is it a refusal to dignify speculation with a response? More provocatively, do we have the right to demand a response at all? By insisting that silence must mean something, are we projecting our own desires for drama onto someone who may simply wish to live privately? This raises a sharper question. Do we consume idols as artists, or as characters in a story we feel entitled to narrate? If Jungkook's alleged disappointment becomes a global spectacle, is it because he truly wished the world to know, or because we, the audience, cannot resist turning private pain into public entertainment? Here lies the danger. If we choose to believe without proof, we allow ourselves to be guided not by truth, but by appetite. If we refuse to question, we contribute to a cycle in which rumor is indistinguishable from reality. And if we accept every silence as guilt, every glance as evidence, every absence as betrayal, we risk destroying the very bonds we claim to cherish. So again, the question returns to you, the reader. What do you believe? Do you accept that Jungkook admonished Jimin, leaving him silent and shaken, as countless posts and videos insist? Or do you suspect that this is a fabrication, an elaborate illusion designed to capture your attention, exploit your emotion, and keep you endlessly searching for answers that may never come? In the end, perhaps the only truth is this: unless Jungkook and Jimin themselves choose to speak openly, every narrative remains speculation.